Hello, and welcome once again to the Summoner's Guide to Final Fantasy XIV. This time we're taking on the Great Gubal Library Hard Mode, a patch 3.4 dungeon, and one of my personal favorites. Those of you who remember my video of the first Great Gubal Library, the level 59 dungeon from Heavensward, know that that's one of my favorite dungeons, and this hard mode is also very fun. So, without further ado, let's get moving. Okay. So, nothing too special about these first trash pulls. Unleash all of your destructive power on them. Yada yada. Now, it is not uncommon for people to take on 2 of these adverts at a time. You can't take any more than 2. But this particular run is looks like to be a little more conservative run. Oh, I spoke too soon. We are going to make this big pull. Honestly, making this pull bigger pull is a little tougher than taking the first 2 together. But gather all together. So, a lot of dodging to worry about in that pull, because they really like to target the DPS. Alright, so, you remember the Demon Tome from the original Great Gubal Library. Well, this time the demon leaves the tome, and we have a few more interesting mechanics to worry about. Summoner 2-step, there we go. In this one, you'll want to stay in mid-range, so there's some dodging to do. Folio is the attack you really want to worry about. You'll want to stay close to the barrier, but not on it. Notice it has a knockback effect. Alright, more Folio. Now, You'll notice when the books appear on the edges, they will quickly resolve an AoE. That will basically go out. The ones on the east and west side of the arena is like that. You will go out and leave just a small sliver of space in the center. Now you're going to see ones on the north and south. They're going to make books appear. They'll put up an AoE. The AoE resolves. Get out of the just obviously dodging. Not a difficult concept. There's just a lot of dodging in this fight, and just knowing where the dodging is going to be based on where the books appear is really what you're worried about. And that, as they say, is that. So, this second section, I can very well imagine we're going to see a bigger pull here. Or not, that's alright. Just always follow the lead of the tanks, as I'm sure that would be drilled into your head by now. Well, so much for getting Death Flare off. 2, 1, expired. Refreshing ether flow. Obviously, stay out of the fire. Again, you'll see a lot of tanks take those last two pull, or that last pull along with this pull, and just make it a nice big old pull. Of course, you'll just want to dodge everything. Once he goes down, the fire fades. You can go in there and get the treasure coffer if you want. All the books that you see around there are just fun little pieces of lore if you want to read them, but typically when you're playing with a party, you probably won't. Alright, how big of a pull are we making here? This is another case where some tanks will pull everything up to, basically up to the boss. Well, not up to the boss, but everything that would precede the boss in this particular section. Again, you can go get that chest if you want, not necessary. But if you need some additional gear, which isn't going to be any better than the gear you can get with tomes, but now again, a lot of tanks will pull all of, speaking of tomes, a lot of tanks will pull all of these tomes together. Go down pretty quickly, so don't waste too much of your resources on them. As soon as all the tomes go down, one of them will open up, and you'll be able to go up to the second boss. Now, this boss is actually kind of a light version of the boss from LXXV, specifically called the Arm of the Father. And his moves depend on what form he's in, whether it be human form, hand form, or magnet form. This is like if it's eruption move, don't be standing in him. if you get that tether on you, get as far away as possible. That will actually reduce the damage of the tether when he finally resolves the attack against you. You want to try to get him down below 2/3 health before he transitions into his next phase. Speaking of which, alright, the hand form. I always forget you need to get the same seal, not the opposite seal. I had forgotten about that. So that was a mistake on my part. As you can see, it wasn't devastating. And it needs to be a seal that's lit. There we go. That's how it's done. And that's really, if I recall correctly, all you really have to worry about while dealing with the hand form. Now there's a third form, which is the tornado form, which we may or may not actually see. Never mind, we're going to see it. But we're probably not going to see the magnet move. Right. Now, the magnet move I will give a brief explanation of because we didn't actually see it. He will... basically, he will take on a polarity, positive or negative, and he will give a polarity to all of the players on the field, positive or negative. And just like in actual magnetism, like charges repel, opposite charges attract. The key is you don't want to be pushed into the ring of fire on the outside of the arena or pulled into the fiery center where the tornado form is. So, if you have the opposite sign as him, you're going to be pulled, so you want to get out just inside the ring of fire so that you're pulled into a safe distance and not actually into the fire. If you have the same symbol as the boss, you'll want to do the opposite. You'll want to get just as close to him as you can without actually being in the fire. Again, follow the tank's lead here. Sometimes the tanks will pull everything up to and including the next room. Now, the next room basically is going to have ads pop up in waves. So it's actually going to be a fairly long encounter. And again, a lot of times the tanks will pull to the far end of the room where that seal is, and that will actually cause more ads to appear and basically hasten this encounter. Again, it just really all depends on how confident your tank is in making larger pulls. So all of these statues you see here are going to turn into monsters, basically. And it's going to be in stages. So as you start killing some of these servitors and scribes, more of the statues are going to wake up. And your eventual goal is just to kill them all. So, pretty soon, we're going to see those remaining 4 statues wake up. And in reality, at this point, we're almost done. as this goes, I continue to get experience. I'm actually technically level 63 outside of this dungeon. You haven't seen anything above 60 at this point, because I'm playing level 60 dungeons and everything's being synced. But I'm going to be in pretty good shape on level when I actually start getting into Stormblood content, so I probably won't have to do too much outside leveling. And I'm not terribly broken up about that. Alright, this last guy is a panda. He doesn't look anything like a panda, but he is, in fact, a panda. Okay, yes, that was a bad joke. But it's a bad joke that pretty much everybody who's played this dungeon has made. I am really not going to bother burning any of my resources on this guy. I'm going to save them for the boss, which is a fun boss. I really like this next boss. Now, he's going to keep using that Bone Shaker move and keep giving us vulnerability up stacks, so you kind of do want to kill this guy quickly. So I really shouldn't be greedy with my stacks, but as you can see, it did not end up being a problem. Oh, we have a whole bunch of people new to this fight. Well, hopefully either they're all playing alts like I am, or they've studied the video or whatnot, because they seem to have handled the mechanics in the first two fight pretty well. But the mechanics are a little more interesting in this one. I love this fight. This is a lot of fun. So, creepy owl on chair. Okay, so Judy is giving us some valuable advice, which is good. Of course, I know this fight, so it's not going to be an issue, but... I just said, yep. Alrighty, here we go. So, I love this fight. So, here we go. Alright, checkout is the major mechanic we're going to have to deal with. He's going to drop books all around the arena. And the books are going to do things. Stay out of their AoEs when they first appear. Alright, those are levitating platforms. When he casts on the properties of quakes, get onto one of the raised platforms. Easy peasy. Alright, now he's going to check out again. I'm going to resolve that before the imp thing happens. Alright, there are now two fields. The green one, and that kind of purple one. These have different mechanics. On the properties of darkness, don't worry about that. That's just a standard room wide that you can't do anything about. On the properties of tornadoes, on the other hand, get into the purple. Get out of the purple once he's finished casting that move. He then casts on the properties of imps. He'll turn you into an imp, get into that, and you'll turn back out of being an imp. He'll immediately then cast on the properties of Thunder 3. You don't want to get hit by that while you're an imp, because while you're an imp, you have increased lightning vulnerability. Pretty soon, he's going to head to the north end of the arena and check out. And he's going to summon a behemoth. Now, keep pressing the attack on Strix. And then line of sight yourself behind a rock. noticed, if I had actually turned the camera, that he then actually pulled out all three of the AoE fields. The raised platform, the purple heavy, and the green imp. From that moment on in the fight, he's basically just going to keep using all of the various moves you saw in the first phase. And you basically just have to respond to them by going into the correct AoE field. We put out so much DPS there that we didn't even get to that point of the fight. But that's how it works, in case you actually ever do get to that part of the fight. So, that's the Great Gubal Library hard mode. A pretty fun dungeon with some pretty fun mechanics. As I've said several times, I particularly liked that last boss fight. It was a little more fun when the gear wasn't so high that you actually played that final phase, but it's still a fun little fight, and I enjoy it. So, with that, I'm going to sign off of this video. Next on the agenda is Zelfatal, the 4.3, I'm sorry, 4.3, we're nowhere near 4.3, the 3.4 story dungeon, which I have yet to unlock, so I better get on that. And until then, have a wonderful day.